In one of the most violent countries in the world, where the Commissioner of Police openly admitted that law enforcement forces are unable to fulfill their mandate, the government is pushing to amend the Firearms Controls Act to prevent citizens from owning firearms for self-defense. The amendments also have far-reaching implications for hunters and sport shooters. Government's campaign against legally owned firearms, headed by Cele, the Minister of Police, seems to rely on the spreading of misinformation about firearm statistics. This is evident from his television interview that was aired on SABC and in which he made several unsubstantiated claims about gun violence.
We have discovered that the countries that don't give the right to the individuals to own firearms have a less violent crime against their own citizens, including women.
We ran Cele's claims past the former head of the SAPS's Crimes Information Management and Analysis Centre, Dr. Christa Kok, a man who understands crime trends in South Africa better than most.
The problem is you can't compare. He refers to research, and he constantly referred to research, but we haven't seen that research document or documents. And it would be interesting with how many countries did they compare. The ones that he mentioned, for example, Japan and Botswana, have got, firstly, a very low level of crime. Actually, in Japan, it's, there's basically no violent crime at all. In Botswana, it's also a very low level. In the last few years, it increased a little bit because they have now also a problem of an influx of foreigners from the north, especially. But you can't compare the two, not at all. South Africa have got very high levels of violence.
More people are killed and injured by legal firearms in the hands of the owners, even more than those that are out there illegal.
I could find no evidence in that regard.
2019-2020, 566 guns were used, those were illegal firearms, were used to murder, injure, attempted murder people. But 1,334 were legal, that were in the legal hands, that were used to injure, mostly those would be women. So it doesn't stop.
No, that I can't, that figures doesn't make any sense to me. I can give you a few examples. Let's go to weapons, and let's go to a few crimes. Let's go to carjackings. In carjackings, 15th in the year, in only 1 year, the latest full year that was released. I mean, now they release quarter, and that is 1920. It's from April 2019 to March of 2020. 15,110 carjackings happened where firearms were used. The total was 17,684. But in 85% of that, firearms were used. And then, so, I mean, just that indicate to you that in the hands of people who shouldn't have that firearm, it's not their firearm, or maybe it was licensed, but you will never know. There are at least 15,110. Then when we come to business robbery, 16,261 business robberies occurred where a firearm was in the hand of the criminal. But how he comes to that figures, I mean, I don't have a clue.
We found them to be more lethal, more violent than those that are out there. So if you reduce these guns, you are reducing the violence against the ordinary citizens out there.
No, that's a bit laughable, because clearly, with all the figures that I've just mentioned, clearly illegal guns are very lethal. If we look at our murder figure of 21,000+, and this murder figure is still rising for the last 6 years, it's going up.
Out of 1,334 firearms that have been used either to injure or kill ordinary citizens, most of them women, only 25 of them were from the state agencies.
That, I think, is clearly not correct. The two weapons which are preferably used by the CIT robbers is the R4 and the R5. Both of those, the R4 I think is the Defence Force, and the R5 is the police issued weapon. It's a bit shorter than the other one is more for long distance. Now I can assure you the same will happen wherever they need to do a shop robbery, a jewellery shop, all of those things, they use that kind of weapon.
Bearing in mind that the SAPS has lost an estimated 5,000 firearms and more than 10 million rounds of ammunition over the past few years, and the many cases of police officers who rent out firearms in police custody to criminals, it's clear the government's arguments for wanting to disarm law-abiding citizens holds no water. The question we should be asking is why the authorities really want us disarmed.